Hello and welcome to this special briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. Our guest today is Colonel in Reserves Yaron Buskila. Yaron Buskila is head of operations at the IDSF, Israel's Defense and Security Forum, known in Hebrew as Bidchonistim, and he had a storied military career during which he was also wounded 3 times. The IDF today, after the ceasefire kind of stalled and no hostages was released, overnight struck dozens, if not hundreds, of targets in Gaza. This is during Ramadan. Reports say that Hamas was kind of taken by surprise. Can you shed some light on why now, what the targets are, and what the IDF will do in the coming days, and what are the goals of this? Thank you.
Okay, so as everybody probably know, last night Israel launched a very broad attack using aircraft with a great force on targets in the Gaza Strip, hitting many terrorists, and not only terrorists, even terrorist infrastructures. There was actually 3 objectives for this attack. The first one, and I think that the most important one, is to removing the threat of a Hamas raid on the IDF position, or again, idea on the Israeli villages. And we know about the threats in the last 2 months. As you know, since the ceasefire, the Hamas tried to arm himself again and to prepare to the next round when Israel is preparing to get into Gaza again. Civilians who are working in the field next to the board, and then next to the board, and or against the Israeli villages. The second objective is to push the Hamas again to a negotiation table under the terms of the first round, the first step. And the Hamas right now is stopping the negotiation because he wants to put us in another terms, which include leaving the Hamas to be the leader inside Gaza, leaving the Hamas to be still an armed organization inside Gaza, so he can arm himself again and prepare to the second October 7, which can be another date. We can never know when, and that's one of the things that we cannot allow. We cannot let happen. We have to stay to leave our forces still in the Philadelphia corridor, and we have to go inside Gaza again and to fight against the Hamas, and to make sure that the Hamas will not stay in Gaza anymore. Otherwise, they will just arm themselves again, and they will prepare to the next raid, which can happen in the next future or in some other time in the future. The third objective is to removing threats such as explosive devices, rockets, and anti-tank missiles that were planted in the houses, in the roads, through which the IDF is expected to enter during the ground operation. So since the Hamas knows that we are preparing to the next round, so he's preparing, getting ready, is putting a lot of explosive devices all over, and we need to make sure that once we're getting again into Gaza to the next round, our forces will not get hurt by these threats. So, but I just want to finish and to say before maybe you have some questions, that Israel is trying to exhaust as many ways as possible to free the hostages before a ground operation. But it is clear to us that the Hamas will not release everyone without achieving its goal, because they are not the hostages are the only assets that we have in his hands, and he will not release every one of them until he will get his goal. So if we want to change the terms of the next negotiation, we have to get inside Gaza and to fight again, and to go back to the table with the terms that better for Israel and not better for the Hamas.
Okay, thank you for this explanation. I noticed in reports today that among the higher level targets were, uniquely targeted, especially, I mean, the leaders of the diplomatic bureau of Hamas. Um, at least in my feeling, I'm not sure it's true. It's a slight shift from the past 15 months when the IDF publicized the names of military leaders of the military wing, and now it's like a signal to Hamas, the political wing, so to speak. Except Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran. That's a different thing. But there's like 5 or 6 people from the political wing who are being taken away. So first of all, is this a signal to Hamas? And secondly, I have to ask a simple, kind of naive question: who will eventually be there to negotiate the return of the remaining hostages? Considering that, one by one, Israel is taking out the entire top of the organization.
First of all, the Hamas is not a political organization established for one reason, to fight against Israel. It's a terror organization that some of its members are playing the political game so they can promote their needs and around the world and to try and to look like a political organization. All of them, for us, everyone that is belong to the Hamas is a target. Every one of them, every Hamas member, it can be a political, it can be belong to the terror organization like the ground force in Gaza, promoting and promote actually even in the past the raid against October 7th. So they're all belong to the Hamas. They're all considered as a target, and we are not distinguishing between none of them. In the end of the day, in the moment that the Hamas will decide to stop and to release the hostages, so those who will be still the leaders in the Hamas, and there is some leaders, some of them inside Gaza, some of them out of Gaza, will negotiate with Israel. I mean, if after we eliminate we eliminate the Sinwar, some other leaders came and now are negotiating with us. So there are always leaders in the Hamas. I hope that in the next negotiation, it will not be about if to release 2 hostages or 10 hostages. It will be about if we will let the Hamas leave Gaza Strip to another country and to stay alive or not. That will be the only frameworks of the negotiate, and not if to play with Israel and to deal with this miserable hostages that are still very, very deep underground in the tunnels. We want all of them back home. The only term that we can accept is to deal with them about if to leave them alive out of Gaza or keep fighting. And that's for the better of the future of Israel. Otherwise, the Hamas will arm itself again, the learning from this war, and the next raid will be harder than what we faced in October 7th.
Okay, thank you for this. I need to ask you, you spoke about, a possible ground invasion in the future. So do you know about a possible timeline for this? Like how many days now are we going to have of airstrikes before such a ground invasion occurs? And just as an aside, I would like to say that this new operation has a name. It's called Ha'oz V'Acherev, which means the force and the sword. I don't know, the generator that makes his name is not very original. It's obviously tied to the war, but also, let's say internally in Israel, this is kind of the first performance by an incoming chief of staff and his commanders, and also a sort of freshman, more or less freshman defense minister. Can you say that they have specific goals to achieve different from what has been until now? And let me ask something provocative. Is this little operation now akin to mowing the lawn like in Jenin? Like this recognition that terror rises again and we need to, cut the grass before it becomes dangerous?
Yeah, first of all, let's start with the second question. First of all, I think that we learned that the better way the better way to win wars is to avoid them from the beginning. And if you have threats against Israel, it's better to be the first one to attack and not just to let them to be the first one and then to respond. What we saw is that the Hamas is preparing to another invasion, another attack against our units and against our forces or against our civilians. And I think the decision to attack them now, it's a good decision. So we don't need to respond. We need to innovate and to be the first one to attack. I think it's very similar to what we're trying to do right now in Jenin and in the north of the Judean Samaria, because we know that the Hamas, they're another terror organization, is preparing to do the same thing that the Hamas did in October 7th. In the IDF understood and the government understood that if we will not get there soon, they will have the same abilities and capabilities that the Hamas had in October 7th, and this time the invasion will be in our cities, our biggest cities like Kfar Saba and some other cities next to the border, and we cannot let them do that. About the timeline.
Let me just repeat. You said there was information, just so that everyone hears it, that Hamas in Gaza was planning attacks similar to October 7 already. That was the intelligence of Israel.
Not fast as October 7. He don't have the same ability right now, but one of his achievements is to kidnap again soldiers or civilians, to hold them in there and to say, here we are still strong. We have the same abilities. We can kidnap again soldiers or civilians. Now go back to negotiate with us, and we will say what will be the frameworks of this negotiation, and not you. And if you want your hostages back, so you need to let us and to give us what we want and not what you want. So I think that's why this attack was very important, not to let them kidnap more hostages, more civilians or soldiers, the same like it did in October 7th. Of course, not the same, not big as it was in October 7th, not such a vast attack. But even if it will be smaller, still, let's take, for example, if they will make an attack on one of the IDF positions right now in Gaza, which, I don't know, contain around like between some of them like 10 to 20 soldiers. So we don't want to see 10 or 20 soldiers in their hands, kidnapping 10 or 20 soldiers, or kidnapping civilian agriculture that works next to the border. We don't want to see even one civilian in their hand. So we have to eliminate that, to avoid that, and this is why this attack was important. And the same in the Judean Samaria. I don't know if some of you remember, but just 1 year ago, they tried to launch a rocket from Jenin to the north of Israel. It wasn't such a good rocket, and some of them explode in the Judean Samaria next to Jenin. But okay, it's just a matter of time until they will be better, and we will see the same threats and the same abilities that the Hamas had, and the Hamas started like that, trying to launch a rocket, and he just improved himself by the time, and he had very good abilities to hit Tel Aviv, and he could hit Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and so on. So we have to avoid that, even in Judean Samaria, before they will have the same possibility and some abilities. You asked about the timeline of the next operation. First of all, we're trying to do as much as we can to release hostages by negotiation before we get into operations. So we're trying to earn some time and to negotiate using Qatar and in Egypt to help us to release some of the hostages. We hope that in the last Saturday they released the American hostages, the Israeli-American hostages that's in Gaza, but they decided not to do that. And right now, this is what we did. It's a sign to the Hamas, you better go back to negotiate with us. Otherwise, we will not wait, and we will attack. And we have the ability to attack you in vast attack, ground force, air force, and so on. But in the second, I want to say that it will happen if they will not release hostages. It will happen soon, in the very, very in the next future. I don't want to say the exact day, because even if I will tell you the exact day, it can change, because we want to surprise. And some of the time we're trying to wait to get as much as much goals as you can, as much targets as you can, And today, some of the time, some of the time you can decide it from today to tomorrow when you have information that some of the leaders of some of the terrorists are outside of the tunnel that you want to start with succeed. So, but we will not. We're not going to wait too much. It's going to happen soon. The army prepare. It's going to be different in two ways. First of all, when the main thing that all of the humanitarian aid that we gave to the civilians, we will not give it in the same way that we did it before. We will not give it straight to the end of the Hamas. We will do it in a way that what I know that the army is preparing, that the first case is the IDF. We will give it straight to the end of the civilians. We will prepare and make a special facilities, and in a way that we can give it straight to the civilians, or so, a company from abroad that will come into Israel, and we will secure them, and they will give it straight to the end of the civilians and not to the end of the Hamas, because all of this time during the 15 months that we gave it straight to the end of the Hamas, that gave them the power to control the civilians, even to deal with them and to buy a human source and to the Hamas, and we get actually an oxygen to fight against Israel. We fought with them in one hand, in the other hand, we actually feed them with the humanitarian aid. We cannot do that anymore, and from what I know, that's not what's going to happen next. The second thing, we're going to attack in large, vast attack in all of the places at the same time. What we did in the last 15 months, we attacked in the north and we led them to move to the center of the Gaza Strip. And then we attacked in the center, they moved to the south. That's not going to happen again. From what I know, the plan is to attack from all of the areas at the same time and not to leave them get into a safe zone, the same like they did in the last 15 months.
Okay, thank you for this. I have a couple of questions from journalists.
I just want to apologize for my bad English. I hope that you're enjoying my British accent.
No, it's fine. The truth is, I would be happy if you would, I don't know, if there's anything near your microphone, because I can hear you, but I think it's a bit muffled for some people.
Okay, I'll try.
Anyway, for questions from journalists, a journalist is asking two questions. I'll combine them into one. Can the goals be achieved this time purely with airstrikes and without a ground incursion? Because these have proven to be deadly for our soldiers. And
No, there is no way. There is no way. Okay, second.
Secondly, she says, which to me sounds astounding 15 months into the war, that not all the soldiers that are involved in the urban warfare have protective vests and helmets. Is this still a situation today?
Oh, okay, the first question, there is no way to defeat terror without ground force. You can make a lot of damage, but if you would want to defeat terror, you have to use the ground force. By the way, there one time in our history we defeat the terror with our ground force. 2007, we signed of agreement with the terror organization in the Judean Samaria. They decided to leave the weapon and to stop fighting. And if we will promise that we will not gonna eliminate them, and even one of their biggest leader that released lately by the Hamas, I just forgot his name. He moved from being a terror leader into a theater manager in Jenin. So yes, we defeat terror, but it took us time. It took us time fighting 5 years in the Judean Samaria until we signed on this agreement of defeating the terror, and they decided to leave the terror, and it was a quiet year for 3 years. The only thing that changed, what brought the terror again to the north of Judean Samaria, was that we decided that since we signed this this agreement with the terror organization, so this is the time to let the Palestinian Authority to take responsibility in the north of the Judean Samaria, and they will ensure the security of Israel, which proved again and again and again that it's not true. They don't have any willing to fight for the needs of Israel, and they don't have even the ability to do that against the terror in the Jewish Syria. We are the only one that can ensure the security of Israel, only the IDF. That's regarding to the first question. The second question about the helmets, all of the soldiers had protected helmets. Some of the helmets were better, and some were less. And like everything in life, you always the soldier wanted a better one, a new one, but there was no soldier without an helmet. You know, like in even like in the cell phone, everyone to have the better cell phone, the new one that just get to the market. There is always the better one, but there was no soldier without a protected vest and without an helmet. So it's not happened in the past, and it's not happening. It will not happen in the future.
Okay, I'm going to ask another questions coming from Bloomberg journalist, and also I want to ask something regarding the last thing you said about the security of Israel. So I'm going to segue into that. First of all, I'll go from the last part. Here in Israel, some municipalities, Rishon LeZion, Rehovot, where I happen to live, some other areas said we are opening shelters in case there is anything. And we know that in the Gaza periphery, kibbutzim and communities, there was no school today. So my question is basically, after 15 months, what's the residual capability of Hamas? Will they fire? Is it actually possible that they will fire rockets into Israel? Are they still manufacturing rockets inside Gaza, or are these leftovers? And the second thing is regarding what you said about a different method of attacking in Gaza. This is a question from Bloomberg. If you attack in different areas at the same time, doesn't this put also the civilians in sort of a trap with no safe place to go?
Thank you. It's a very, very, very good question. First of all, yes, the Hamas kept manufacturing again rockets, so he can launch a rocket into Israel. So yes, we need to prepare. We need to prepare, and you know that we still have the abilities. Again, not the same like we saw in October 7 and in the days after or the months after. But yeah, you can still shoot a rocket and launch a rocket into Israel because he's creating them underground in manufacturing them underground. Again, not in the same capabilities that he had before October 7. So that's why we need to prepare. And until we will eliminate the Hamas always will have the willing to create more and more ammunition and even to smuggle ammunition through Egypt if he can, or from other places. I will not be surprised if we will find out that during the last months that we led them to get this humanitarian aid, they used it to smuggle weapon, smuggle drones, smuggle weapon. I don't know to say 100% that that's what they did, but I would not be surprised if they did it because they did it before October 7, so they can do it again. Regarding the civilians, I think that this time it will look different. I'm saying again, I don't know exactly because, and I don't know to say exactly, I don't think that this time the civilians will be held in the one area. I think it will be split to different areas. So the Hamas will not use these areas as a shelter, the same like he did since the war started in October 7. By the way, he didn't just hide it by himself. Some of the our soldiers and the civilians that was hijacked, kidnapped by them. He held them there too, in the same places too. So I think that this time they will be split into different areas. Of course, they will have the safe zone. We are not trying to harm them and to hit or to hurt the civilians, but we will try to do it differently so the Hamas, we will not use them as a human shields and to hide among the civilians during the next round.
Okay, I know I said last questions, but I have just questions coming from France 2, the French station. Those are two questions. One is general, and I'm guessing everyone is asking it. the two objectives of the war, this round of the war, is getting the hostages back and destroying Hamas. Aren't these in some contradiction with each other? And secondly, Francis is asking, was Israel ever interested in actually getting to phase 2 of the deal, or was it planning the whole time to launch this second invasion into Gaza?
I don't think I understand. I don't think that I understand the second question. I will start with the first. The same goals stay, and these goals are, of course, they are matching with each other, because I, I personally think that there is no way to release the hostages without eliminate the Hamas or send them away from Gaza. I think that we could never get the hostages back if the Hamas was not destroyed the same way that it's destroyed by the IDF, simply negotiate with us. Otherwise, they could still keep them and negotiate and try to negotiate with us, and we not release them with a different terms. And I think that only by pushing the Hamas with the face to the wall, and not putting Israel with the face to the wall, that's the only way to negotiate again and to release more and more hostages. That's the language of the terror organization. That's the only way. I mean, there is another way. The other way is to say what some of the people say: there is no price for releasing hostages. We need to accept every term that the Hamas achieve. But any price that the Hamas achieve means that I will be the prize, you will be the prize. It means that the Hamas will have the same abilities like before October 7, even more, and it will attack again and kidnap our civilians. And of course, will launch rockets into Israel. And again, we will go back into sirens, and we need to use the shelters, and it will burn our fields again. That's something that we cannot accept, because we just delay the next raid, the next invasion, just to another day, and we have to ensure that that will not happen again. So this is regarding to the first question, the same goals, and without eliminate the Hamas or push them with the face to the wall, we will not release the hostages. We will not release more hostages. That's how I see it. And if you can repeat the second question again, I will be happy.
The second question was simply about, if destroying Hamas and getting the hostages back aren't two objectives that are kind of in a conflict of interest with each other, considering that the hostages are Hamas's, an insurance policy basically for staying in existence.
No,
this has been a repeated theme of the war. How do you negotiate with any party its demise? It's a bit of a paradox, I must admit. I would actually like to just in general to put out there something else before we finish, that the Houthis in Yemen have pledged to attack every Israeli ship that comes through the Straits of Hormuz, and they did say that they are going to attack Israel if we attack Gaza again, and they have not so far. They've been made busy by the Americans, but it remains to be seen tonight, the following night, etc., if we're back to the routine of rockets waking up the Israeli home front.
Yeah.
And also, finally, I would also like to mention that in the background of all this, today there were airstrikes even in Khan Arnabe, which I personally was looking at when I was in the army. That's quite a few kilometers east of Kuneta. This is Syrian territory. The IDF is maintaining a presence there. Can I ask you one last question? If Israel needs to push more forces into Syria and is starting this war in Gaza, does it not face again a situation of a stretched out army that needs more infantry than it can handle on two fronts?
Well, first of all, yes. I mean, the better way is to just use all of our ground forces just in one place to focus in Gaza. But unfortunately, this war in the beginning founded us from the Lebanon, from the Syria, and of course from Yemen and so on. And we leave us no other way to just split our forces, of course, in the Judah and Samaria, and to face with all of these threats. I think, but right now it's different. Right now, the threats that are coming from Lebanon is different. We don't have the same threats that we had before October 7th. And I think that our achievements against the Hezbollah changed the situation right now, and we don't need such amount of soldiers in the border in Lebanon, the same like we needed before, now even after October 7th. Syria right now, what we're trying to do is to avoid a situation that all of the multi-terror organization right now that's still in Syria, putting their hands on the ammunition that was belonging to the Syrian army before Assad was removed and escaped to Russia. That's why we're attacking them. We're not attacking Giuliani's forces. We're just trying to avoid a situation that the Hezbollah taking this ammunition and all of these abilities, and some other terror organizations that can use it against Israel. Some of them are proxies of the Iran. In the end of the day, I think that we will face again soon just with two main areas. The first one, and that will challenge us. The first one is Gaza, and the second is Judah and Samaria. Usually they talking with each other. When we're starting operation in Gaza, we see how the terror in Judah and Samaria is raising, and the same like when happening in Judah and Samaria. So the terror from Gaza, the Hamas, is getting involved. I think that we have right now the opportunity to change the situation in Israel from the base. I think that this is the opportunity year. This year, the second year of the war, is the opportunity year of Israel to eliminate and to eradicate the terror organization, to make them weaker, or even to eliminate them totally, and to change the situation in Israel and in the Middle East in a way that we never really believed that we can do. I mean, October 7 was a very, very horrible day, but I mean, now after what happened October 7, we have the ability to change this situation, including Iran, of course, with the involvement of the United States, Hamas, and all of these proxy organizations, and to find ourselves in a lot of years of quiet in the next future of Israel. I hope that we will be dozens of years and not just 1 or 2 years. It depends on what we will do this year and how we will take advantage of our achievements during this war.
Okay, thank you very much for this. I appreciate your time, Colonel Buskila. And as always, this briefing will later be on our YouTube channel. This one had a bit of a rocky start, so we're going to edit it out. May I just mention that the Jerusalem Press Club this week is hosting a delegation of Polish journalists. And they have actually traveled to the Gaza periphery today, so they received quite a show. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.